number out, please, mate.
The biggest problem with the housing system, the homeless system, is that it's not geared up to actually helping the people it should be helping. They stick you in a hostel that's not designed for you or anybody really. I say for me with my health, heavy doors and everything. What needs to happen is they need to start spending the money on good quality properties to get people into long-term accommodation. All this thing about saying, oh, there isn't the properties. There's over 5,000 homes vacant in Leicester alone. So there are properties available. There just isn't the will to spend the money on the people. They've got access to money. They can afford to put people in long-term accommodation if they chose to. But the problem with charities like this, it's turned into a business. So it's all about the profit margin. It's not about the people it should be helping. It needs to come from the top, and they need to talk to the people who are service users and say, what can we do to help you? You can go through the city centre and there are hundreds of flats empty at any one time. They can get people in there if they wanted to. There just isn't the will to do it.
Where do you stand on homelessness? Do you try to be sympathetic, creating a narrative around issues that might have contributed to them ending up that way? Or are you cynical, seeing homelessness as a lifestyle choice, as one conservative politician put it, where begging and criminality supplement benefits and fund substance misuse? The truth is complicated.
Listen, from a start of this morning, you'll be in fucking trouble. Come on, man! Take a room.
When I first got the job with Housing First, my boss gave me a list of names and their alleged phone numbers and told me to make contact. I asked what I was supposed to do once I accomplished this, and she just shrugged her shoulders as if to say, figure it out. I now know this ancient city like the back of my hand, a city not far removed from glory. I arrived from Canada on the heels of two events that thrust the community onto the world stage: the shocking discovery of Richard III's crooked bones in a car park, their subsequent exhumation and reinterment into a suitably monolithic slab of stone in Leicester Cathedral, and the 5,000-to-1 underdog Foxes winning the English Premiership League title for the first, and maybe the last time in their storied 111-year history. But alas, it didn't take long for the former dragon of industry, with a historical unemployment rate of a staggering 1%, to slide right back into a state of decay and ruin. I tracked down the first client on my list outside the outpatient drug and alcohol service I used to work at as a recovery worker. He couldn't have cared less. He matched the description given to me by his previous worker perfectly, as Fagin from Oliver, if Fagin had a taste for illicit drugs. Mr. Morris used to live here until he was assaulted by a fellow drug user who prison napalmed him. Prison napalm is a cruel yet effective form of revenge, involving a teapot, boiling water, and copious amounts of sugar. They pinned him down and poured the concoction all over his chest and legs. His burns, to over 60% of his body, were subcutaneous burns. full thickness burns that damaged the skin's epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissue. Upon his release from hospital, he was moved to another accommodation, where I could begin creating my engagement style. My approach to this day is to do whatever it takes, no matter how unpleasant, to establish respect and trust. An old boss of mine taught me to do the dirty work first before asking someone else to do it. The room is knee-deep in newspapers, half-eaten and expired food, piles of soiled clothing and dog-chewed books on WW2. My first reaction is typical of those who are oblivious or don't have the mental bandwidth to look deeper. Mr. Morris has substituted crack for heroin, and based on this drug's characteristics, he's probably looking for a warp speed escape from trauma.
This is my partner, and she died about 4 years ago. She helped me to get off the streets and get in with this organisation. She was 38 when she passed away. She had a stillborn a year beforehand, and she killed herself on the anniversary a year later. And she took an overdose and killed herself.
You miss her?
Yeah, like every day I think about her and that. She helped me to get off the streets properly. She's made sure I was safe while I was on the streets as well. The girl was my life. She gave me life. I miss her every day. Always will. That something happened to me.
This is where they met, and Amy died. Mr. Morris has been meaning to pay a visit, but regrettably has been too busy supporting his habit. I know about these things as I'm an addict too, a recovering alcoholic. It's the little things that make a good housing first worker. An attention to detail, a remembrance of things past and precious. That was nice. I like to do things like that. But now it's time to get back to work. The dirty work.
I think as a housing first worker, what I can bring a lot of my lived experience, I think, and I think that really helps to emotionally connect with my clients. I think they understand that with me, there's absolutely no judgment. You know, I fully understand that to get where we need to go, there's going to be failures, the trials and tribulations of changing your life. I feel like it takes years or months, or you know, it's quicker for some clients, but I'm very open to the failure, the mistake, and sort of growing from there. But yes, and I think that what else I bring is sort of, I feel like, overwhelming positivity can be applied. I feel like I can bring just more of my nurturing side, and I think that definitely helps with building up confidence in people, instilling back their inner power that they once had. I feel like I do a lot of work on that, just reminding people.
Stephanie has an especially complex caseload, largely comprised of people who are in and out of accommodation. Today, Stephanie is on the hunt for two of her clients, both recently housed, whom according to the council are not using their properties enough, and thus endangering their tenancies. A curious mental phenomena seems to occur with some long-term rough sleepers. In speaking with one of my clients with whom you'll be reacquainted later, he says that life in the wilds of Leicester, while challenging, provides the ultimate sense of freedom and adventure. It would be like moving from a mansion to a closet, with other factors like a sense of belonging and community on the street compared to boredom and isolation while living alone. As you can see, Lisa didn't feel like engaging on this day. Lee, or Dr. Pickering, is a walking contradiction, to quote the late great Chris Christopherson. He holds a doctorate in art history, but is even more passionate about Star Wars, having attained the rank of spear holder or chucker in his local Viking reenactment group, and reading pulp movie novelizations of films like Alien and Predator. And there's one more thing. Lee is dying.
I think it's going to be like, it's going to be a 100% personal choice. If someone wants to do that, especially for religious people, because suicide is not allowed.
Right.
If you went for assisted dying, that's allowed.
Only last year,
'cause you're not
Lee had a
committing
quadruple
suicide.
bypass to prolong his life,
Annoys me about
and it hasn't worked. Lee having suffered 4 to 5 subsequent heart attacks, with doctors promising the next one will be his last. Despite the grim prognosis, Lee is abandoning his second property in as many years. Housing First has a budget that we tailor very specifically to a client's needs, whether they be entirely practical or a means to explore the community without the barriers of poverty preventing them from engaging in activities that require funding outside their usual limited financial parameters, whether they wish to re-engage with personal interests and passions or good clean fun. You wouldn't look at Lee and see an ideal candidate for Housing First. It takes time for the pattern of behavior to emerge. But he is. And it's these hidden factors that allow people like Lee to fall between the cracks and get looked over for the vital help they need. I like to gather background information on my clients for insights into their thinking and decision making. Lee's great-grandparents co-founded the Salvation Army. This is not his actual family. Everyone had bushy mustaches and long gray beards back then, even babies. After Lee's dad died, he broke away from the Salvation Army community and was excommunicated. From that moment on, he determined to live a life unfettered by long-term intimate relationships and authority figures. When Lee's health began to fail, so did his rugged individualism. Lee lasts around 6 months before he begins the process of destabilizing anything connected to people and their perceived power over him. On this day, he took his power back from God and anyone else who had anything to say about his future by insisting I come along to support him while he finalized his do not resuscitate order.
That's you, isn't it? You have to send. That's what you have to sign.
So this
Yeah.
is.
How do you feel? What are some of the benefits you've experienced on a positive note from
Yeah, it
Housing
was
First?
basically being like today. And this is probably serious thing. Going to see 2 fantastic art displays. After my aborted operation in December, we started to get together a bucket list, which Housing First were brilliant with that. to Birmingham, for a good example. All these things are important, and that's where I think Housing First are different from the rest, because they think of you as a person and what you like as a person, and they go out of their way to make you feel better, make you feel more happier, like going to the cinema. I mean, everyone knows I love this. I love going to see the cinema. So it's these things that make a difference. I think Housing First do that, and they do it so well.
Just then, the housing officer from Action Homeless knocked on the door hoping to collect service charge arrears. Service charges aren't a big deal. They cover the water, the electricity, the internet, etc. But this inflamed Lee's core beliefs around corruption within charities.
Here, and how things are, and it's still rubbish upstairs. Why should I pay extra money when I'm not getting the service that I should get from Action Homeless? So I don't feel that I should pay anything extra, and I'm still having to live like that. I spent so much time being homeless, not sleeping. Action Homeless should pay me.
Okay, so Lee, what I'm going to say in response to that is that if we come up now,
I've not quite finished my rant.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
carry on what you were going to say.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. So
No,
I do
okay, what
apologize.
you were going to say.
So what I would say is that good things are finally happening, and if we have to pay what I would consider to be a nominal or token fee extra per month
Yeah.
for the services, then it would be better for you to do that than to initiate some sort of protest, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It makes sense,
Just from a purely practical point of view.
but if you don't protest, nothing changes. That's why you're doing this video,
Okay.
to make change.
Okay, so how are you going to protest? Are you not going to pay the fee?
I'm not going to pay.
Despite our best efforts, my manager Joella taking time out of her busy schedule to negotiate some sort of truce, Lee commenced with his usual process of principled self-sabotage, making his continued stay at the hostel impossible. Endless allegations against fellow tenants, verbal attacks against managers and staff members, and lastly, the systematic alienation of other supportive services who collaborated with us to keep a roof over his head. Is that him? Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Are you alright?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's what I wanted last year. And it's kind of like it's been a long way to get to this point. But somewhere, what I'm actually thinking, that if I do need to raise funds, sitting like outside here at night time on this corner, when that thing's closed, you've got people coming all over the place.
It broke my heart to think of Lee freezing at night, further compromising his health. But he did literally bring this upon himself, saying at one point that he intended to die on the streets if that's what it took to effect change. Unfortunately, the government has stopped reporting homeless deaths, making his sacrifice that much more pointless. That means we, Housing First, are just going to have to be that much more creative supporting this frail man now that he's back on the streets. Cuckooing is when criminals take over someone's home, usually someone vulnerable like an elderly person or someone struggling with an addiction, and use it for illegal activities like selling drugs or trafficking people. This parasitic behavior is linked to county line drug trafficking and modern slavery. It became more prevalent in the UK around the time county lines gangs started growing in the early 2010s.
Patrick's got this really bubbly, friendly, kind, humorous nature. He can be more dishonest or deceptive because maybe he feels that that's what he needs to do to maintain those relationships with his associates, to gain that respect from them. But sometimes that creates gaps in our working relationship. And
my experience with this, because I have another client who has this happen to him on a regular basis, what they call cuckooing, where people move in And it's a very subtle process. It starts out with, say, perhaps sharing drugs or drinks. And then, that person has no place to stay, so you agree to allow them to stay for a night. That night becomes 2 nights. Those 2 nights become...
Patrick is vulnerable.
Yes.
Patrick is a victim of exploitation. But he doesn't want you, me, or anyone else to know it. Because he's a man and should be able to handle these situations easily. However, throw in the complexities of addiction and simple archetypal human yearnings for company to combat loneliness, positive reflection from being generous, misguided loyalty, and you have the perfect ingredients for
I
cuckooing.
will say something, and then things can get silly quickly, and you don't want things to get like that, and they shouldn't get like that. So, one thing I will say: next place I do get, none of this is going to happen again.
The situation has become untenable, with the police both offering to extricate him from the property to safety, or prosecute him if he chooses to remain for the same offenses as the perpetrators.
Okay, you're a good man, and everyone feels the same way about you.
We do.
So please, do me a favor. If anything is intruding upon you, if you're feeling uncomfortable, if you need anything, just go to Flora. There's a plan in place. You'll be taken care of. And if you want to do it now, I'd prefer you do it now.
Patrick is unaware that his home was about to be turned into a full-fledged drug den by associates of a well-known drug dealer who intends to take over Patrick's flat once he's released from prison. We agreed to meet with the police early the next morning to help with Patrick's transition. The night before, Patrick refused my manager's safety plan of temporary refuge at a hostel. It was not inconceivable that he'd choose to remain in the property, despite his inevitably being squeezed out by the drug dealer, as has happened to countless victims of cuckooing. Come on, Patrick. What's it going to be? A reset? Or a return to homelessness?
Kelvin?
Could have killed me.
What happened?
He robbed me. He'd seen me getting a drop, £30. Didn't know he'd seen me. When the lad that lent me money went away from Case Point, I walked away. And apparently followed me, come behind me. What?
As the trial for Kelvin's attempted murder nears, incidents of harassment and assault increase daily. The situation has worsened to the point that he is considering not testifying to protect himself in the long run.
So what did the hospital say about your injuries?
I didn't stay long enough.
It's now the day of the trial, and I feel it's Kelvin's duty
Kelvin?
to testify. But the intimidation has gotten worse.
You're coughing up blood?
I've been there a lot. I put him in the bars. He's still going to get me.
So I called the investigating officer with the hope that he could convince Kelvin to do what I consider to be the right thing and testify.
I said, look,
What did you do on Thursday when you got your money?
gone, drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelvin did eventually end up testifying. The verdict? Not guilty. The prosecutor decided not to use the CCTV footage of the accused leaving Kelvin's apartment because they looked too calm after allegedly committing such a heinous crime.
What do we do about that moving forward? Well, we have to take extra measures to safeguard you, right? Kelvin? You know, you can't engage in your usual behaviors.
I've got to stay away from the drugs.
Yeah.
If I don't, that's why I'm getting damaged.
Yeah,
I stay away from people like that. I'll be alright.
exactly.
I'm not that interested in crack anymore.
I know. Okay, so I'm going to come back tomorrow. Are you going to be here?
I feel guilty that my naive belief in the justice system has made Kelvin's life even more treacherous. From now on, Kelvin's welfare is in our hands. The police no longer have a duty of care, and the perpetrator has been released without conditions. Patrick ended up making the right decision, thanks to Stephanie and the police's encouragement and support. But we are not out of the woods yet. Victims sometimes go on to become perpetrators of even more vulnerable people. And without Patrick learning from this, specifically his role in what happened, and preventative measures moving forward, it's bound to happen again.
Well, I'm glad I left for one. It was again like it was a Groundhog Day every day. It was getting rough. I wasn't happy. I was depressed. I'm just glad it's over with. I'm glad I've left.
How would you explain to people what happened? How did the problems begin?
Well, a lot of it's through using drugs and giving people the benefit of the doubt and thinking the people are similar to yourself, but they're not always the case. So, things got shitty quickly. Well, not quickly, over time, until it got untenable really to be staying there. So, like I say, I'm glad to be out. Things were not good at all.
So it began with drugs?
Pardon?
It began with drugs, basically? You were using drugs?
Yeah, well, not just, it wasn't just drugs, it was like friend, kind of a friendship as well. But yeah.
Would you compare what happened to sort of getting into a deeper and deeper hole?
But definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what changed your mind about that relationship?
Well, after time you realise people aren't what you think they are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I take drugs myself, but I like to think I've still got some morals and some dignity and decorum.
Cases like these are why Stephanie and Housing First are here, to support Patrick and others to a place where they can safely and successfully live on their own.
I'm in a good place here. I can get to a different place. Yeah, hopefully move on and get to a better place. Choose my friends wisely. But at my age, I should already know all this already. But yeah, I give myself an hard time over things myself. A lot. Thinking, why did I get in these situations? How do I let this happen? But you can't always blame yourself. Well, it's not all me, is it? You know? Yeah.
I think the most difficult part of my role is the inconsistency, the challenges that we all face in everyday life. It seems like a simple fix, and it seems like it's easy to tell somebody to do something and everything will be okay if they do that thing. But we all know life doesn't work like that, and it's not a simple fix, and it's not as easy as if you do this, this will happen, because the people that we work with, they go through everyday challenges like we do. It's not as easy for them to show up in appointments and if they sign a piece of documents or if they start getting help for mental health and physical health, that everything will be okay. And it's understanding that and meeting them where they're at to help them reduce the harm and to hear them what they want. My strengths are I'm very strong. I can come across a bit too strong sometimes. I'm very stern. I have very clear boundaries. And in that also, I'm very personable. I'm very gentle in my approach. I will let you know what needs to happen, and then I can sit down and break it down and say, how are we going to do this? And for me, having that balance of the two, that almost nurturing, it's important for Housing First.
Well, it's Christmas time in Leicester. A busy time of year for Housing First. With some people feeling more generous than others. With each passing year, more and more shops on the high street close, making this once momentous annual excursion pointless. Who do we have here? I see Kelvin is feeling more confident to venture forth on his own. The Housing First team are taking our Christmas budgets and personalizing our purchases for clients, foregoing the usual socks and deodorant for something more reflective of our clients' uniqueness. Then back to home base to make some fresh-cooked Christmas meals, wrap gifts, and deliver everything. For the first time, Joella, our manager, brought her children along to help wrap and cook in order to enhance the Christmas feeling of these activities and to instill in them the true meaning of Christmas, gratitude and giving. This was one of the first Christmases that I didn't feel that tinge of reluctance to enjoy the season, anticipating the melancholy to come after the celebrating was over. Wabi-sabi is a Japanese aesthetic and worldview that finds beauty in imperfection. It emphasizes simplicity, modesty, and the acceptance of the transient nature of things, including aging and decay. This philosophy encourages appreciating natural beauty even in things that are rough, uneven, or imperfect. You can't be a Housing First worker without first accepting the philosophy of wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection, because everything we do is beautiful but imperfect. Stephanie's client Carmen has graduated from a high to a low support service, and from there, her forever home, to be joined by her partner after he completes his prison sentence. Carmen has gone from sleeping in a tent to a model tenant that any landlord would love to have in their property.
This is it. But Carmen, you get up and you do it. And I know there's failures in terms of we're not failing. We're not failing. There's a speed bump.
Every day ain't going to be a good day. No, every day's not a good day. You're going to get good and bad.
Carmen, with Stephanie's help, is downsizing all that she's hoarded over the last 2 years, and will move with her trusted companion Blade the following day. Baljinder Singh, or Bali as he's better known, one of my favorite clients, went from being hospitalized after innumerable tussles with 100 proof bottles of vodka to to abstaining, with the occasional shandy on cheat days. He's now eating regularly and looks a heck of a lot better. And there's Dean, who miraculously survived being hit by a bus, agreeing to a haircut after 8 long years. Handsome devil if I do say so myself.
Got a smile?
And last but not least, my friend, Kelvin Morris, who's abstained from crack for 2 weeks and is buying a phone to watch his favorite program, Frasier, rather than engage in drug-seeking behaviors. Way to go, my friend. Way to go.
Thanks for everything you guys at First Housing done for me. I really enjoyed the books you got me for Christmas. It's just what I asked for.